the takeoff time. Real quick. Okay, I just told you my worst vacation experience with regard to Airbnbs. Tell me, what is your worst operational experience?
Oh, the vacation experience? I can give you that. Operational is when you lose people and you just thought you delegated out to somebody and you got that off your list and then they leave.
Oh,
That's
right.
happened to me twice in the last 4 months.
Oh no. Oh no.
Yeah. Thought I had some intuition.
Right. And you're so proud of yourself. Yeah, that's happened to me
mine's similar.
too.
Yeah, mine's similar, where you've been working with someone and you think they're doing the things, and then when they're unavailable, leave, gone for vacation, whatever it turns out, and it's like, why is this not done? I thought it was done. What do you mean it's not done?
Didn't we talk about this? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Erin, what about you?
Mine's similar, but it's the computer. When I'm out doing van life and I run out of battery, or I realize that, I'm between cities and there is no cell signal here. I'm supposed to be on a meeting, and not only can I not get on the meeting, I can't tell anybody.
I can't get on the meeting.
Yeah, you can do so much with like using your phone as your internet connection, but there's just nothing you can do if there's no cell signal.
Nope.
Well, and it's so funny because, the particularly young people who have pretty much had cell phones most of their lives don't realize that there's still a lot of areas that don't have cell service.
Right.
I mean, people are like, oh no, there's cell service everywhere. It's like, yeah, that's not as true as you think it is.
No. Those are the areas that I want to be.
Exactly. And see, that's the whole thing. Okay, Siobhan is here. Hi, how are you doing? People are going to start coming in. I'm going to do the introductions real quick since we are recording and we have everybody who's speaking here. People are going to start dipping in. I'm going to go ahead and introduce you guys and get rolling with our questions. Just starting with welcome to the virtual CXO. I'm Donna Carlson. I connect female founder CEOs who serve the same customers so you can cultivate a network that will catalyze more leads. I run several CEO peer roundtables that don't want to sacrifice time to speakers in our monthly meetings. So I created this to connect us online in a quick, short, 45-minute max connection to bring valuable information to my clients and connect more people. The series features CEOs who bring the skills that you need to be successful in business. So let's introduce our speakers. Y'all wave as I talk about you. Bonnie Schutz, Tandem Resource Solutions, is founder and CEO. She deeply understands operations, workflow optimization, and strategies for effective delegation that drive small business success. Her expertise comes from decades of experience as an executive assistant supporting C-suite leaders in corporate roles before transitioning into a business owner and a thought leader in the administrative, recruiting, and virtual assistant agency space. In her soon-to-be released podcast, Delegate to Elevate, Get Shit Done, she explores the intersection of operational efficiency and business growth. She shares actionable insights aimed at helping professional service providers, entrepreneurs, and small business owners thrive. Karen Joy Fritz, the Purpositivity Coach. Did I say that right, Karen?
Yes, you did.
Entrepreneur, inventor, author, speaker, and coach. Karen is your guide to bring the inner and outer worlds together, recognizing your uniqueness through multiple neuropsych and integral lenses. Allows Karen to tap into your custom business model, ideally suited to actualize your personal development while expanding your success in impact, income, and influence. Karen takes a stand for transforming the fabric of society through conscious, awake people innovating sustainable solutions that bring more joy, passion, and aliveness to the world, and encourages business owners to view their exit strategy as a fundamental part of their business. The whole journey, not just a final step. Segues perfectly with Gwen Bortner, owner of Everyday Effectiveness, working with CEOs and your teams to ensure that you bring the maximum efficiency to the everyday projects and tasks that are essential for your operations. Her persuasive energy inspires people to take action and making changes for improvement by doing more with their existing resources, meaning time, money, people, providing the structure and environment for organizational change, developing more effective communication for work teams, and creating new routines and consistent productivity practices. So we have some powerhouse women on this call to help figure out whether your business operations is really working for you. And I want to start with Gwen since I ended up the introductions there. Gwen, what problem is a CEO trying to solve when she comes to you?
So typically I'm working with CEOs that are already successful, right? So they're not trying to deal with product market fit or, you know, any of those aspects. They've got some success already under their belt. They're usually in their early to mid six figures. And what's happened is they're stuck in some form. They feel like they're doing all the right things. They're trying to do, you know, all the things that they believe, and often the things that got them where they are, and they're not making progress. And their success often isn't feeling successful for them. You know, the outside success, they're like, hey, you've got a really successful business. And they're like, yeah, it doesn't feel successful. Because either they're working too many hours, they feel like they're spinning their wheels, they've been trying to grow and they're not able to grow. And there's all sorts of feelings that are going along with this not successful success. That is the kind of the way that I think about it. And what I'm really trying to help them look at is, what are the areas of business that you haven't been looking at? And how do we actually get you to move the needle in the way that you really need to move the needle? And so fundamentally, I'm really focused on accountability for the CEO. And what happens is that means most of my work tends to be in the operations, because both Bonnie and Karen would be the first to acknowledge that this is the place that most CEOs are the last place that they want to work, is the operations of it, because it's not that fun and it's not that sexy and it's not, it's and I get that, but when your operations is running really smoothly, the results are super sexy, and all of a sudden you're able to do so much more. And so what I'm really helping them do is look and say, let's look at your business as a holistic picture. And so I stay very high strategic in my approach, and look at your business as a whole strategic picture, and let's start figuring out where really are the bottlenecks, and not just the symptoms, but what's the root cause? Where can we dig deep and figure out what's really causing the problem, and let's fix that. And as we approach it, we fix one area, and often that starts to reveal, like, oh wait, and now there's a problem over here, right? And another area, and we start working on that, and we'll move around, and people often want to know, it's like, well, where do you start first? It's like, there is no absolute first. From my perspective, it's either where's the biggest pain or what's the biggest problem, but often the biggest symptoms aren't actually the biggest problem. And so my goal is always to get down into the root, and like I said, hold them accountable, hold that CEO accountable to actually deal with this root cause issue, which usually is the thing that they've been trying to avoid. And so that's why the accountability piece is really an important piece, because the things that are fun and sexy and move the needle, and the marketing and the stuff that gets them there, they don't usually need much accountability on that, because they like doing that. But it's dealing with maybe people issues that they aren't actually wanting to deal with. Sometimes it's the shoulds that they've gotten on their list that aren't really actually useful. Someone said you should do this, and other times it's just these pieces that it's the way they've always done it, and it never occurs to them that there's a different way to get to the same result that'll actually be faster, easier, less expensive. The list goes on and on and on.
Well, and that exactly is what intrigues me about what Karen does, getting your tech to match your cognitive style. All of those shoulds are meaningless if it is not a match for your cognitive style. So can you dig into that a little bit more, Karen?
Yeah, I loved what Gwen said about that success that doesn't feel like success. Because truly, the reason for being in the business we've chosen to be in, for any of us, is because there's an experience of ourselves we want to be having, right?
Right.
As we give our gift to the world. And if we don't have the right alignment of the tools and the processes, it's never going to feel like us. So many of the best practices that are out there come from the Industrial Revolution. And honey, we don't live there anymore, right? They're made for people who do the same thing all day, every day, repetitively. Not my world. Also have nothing else going on in their lives. They have the support system to focus only on their business. Also not my world. And they're what we would now call neurotypical, which may in itself be a myth. I'm not sure that that actually exists, but now people understand, oh, I'm more right brain, I'm more left brain. Well, golly, those are two different kinds of systems working on the inside.
Right.
I'm more people oriented or I'm more task focused. That's a whole different way to set up the way that you're interacting with the work that you're doing.
Right.
I don't care if you're an individual contributor or you're a CEO, you personally still have interactions with the world. And they need to show up in a way that lights you up, not that just feels like a treadmill of, yep, and then I've got to do the next thing on the list, right? So even like for the people-oriented people, have your system structured around your CRM with the tasks coming off of that. So when I see a task, it's like, oh, and it's connected to that person I love, right? For the task-oriented linear folks, just the opposite. Give them the list of tasks, and on behind that, have it linked to the person who is impacted by it or might need to know about it. And man, when I check off that task and get my little hit of dopamine, then I also know that I'm pleasing someone else. But I'm honest, right? Which one is actually pleasing me? Which one is bringing me alive?
It's a really good perspective. And I would imagine, Karen, that there's a whole lot of that neurocognitive match when you're hiring the right assistant. And I want Bonnie's perspective on how the personal assistant or executive assistant that you hire needs to complement where you have a deficit. How does that work, Bonnie? How do you make a perfect match between the cognitive style of the CEO and her support system?
Right, right. Well, there's no golden unicorns that I like to call them, where everybody's a perfect match. But in our situation, we like to work in tandem behind the scenes with a middle person that is very in tune to what's going on with the day-to-day and communicates very clearly between the client and the virtual assistant, personal assistant, executive assistant, dependent upon the needs. To kind of be that sounding board for both sides. And so this like is a beautiful triad for me. If my ideal clients would come from first Gwen and then go to Karen and then come to me, that would be amazing because we go in there and find that we do have differing ideas between the assistant and the person they're supporting. But I believe if they think about getting themselves set up strategically first and then really hone into how they work, and then find their person, we would probably have a better chance of that close to perfect match. If it's not perfect, what we do here in my company is we bring on a second person who may complement the first, that may be better at those three things that first person's not so wonderfully matched with. And there is hence sometimes a lead and somebody that lead can delegate to, and they work behind the scenes. So that's kind of how we handle it. We guarantee everybody's a match. If not, we replace them. We understand it's sometimes difficult, like a marriage. It's a relationship. It starts out great in the beginning. I hear nothing for months, and then all of a sudden something goes awry. So we do our best, and you know, and we know our resources to help us get there.
Good point. Can you talk a little bit about systems that work that translate between your virtual assistant and the CEO?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. So obviously a CRM, we have to find a VA that can work with whatever the CEO's CRM is. We also love to have some kind of instant communication tool, such as Slack or Microsoft Teams. And then what I always say is you got to have your communication love language nailed down. And so I always ask a new client, what is your number one way to be reached? And what is your number two way? And oftentimes I help impart upon the VAs that don't sit and wait for a response if you email somebody and you're just dead in the water because you can't move forward. So text them and say, please check your email. And so between the CRM and an instant messaging tool, and then, whatever's business it is, something applies to that, would be their major tool, like an all-in-one type thing, is something like a project management tool I use. For example, Trello is a pretty easy one that I use quickly for my business. Love it. And so those three things, probably matched with your person's behind the scenes and your intuitiveness and your emotional intelligence, are something that I look for big time when bringing people onto my team.
I would love for you guys to sound in on this, especially from that operations point of view. Case in point, I run a CEO roundtable. Most of them would rather get reminders on a text message. And 2 of my 12 yesterday said, I don't want text reminders. I don't want to get involved in a group text. And now I'm like, okay, how am I going to make sure that everyone is in sync and getting the same information when 4 out of 12 won't check email? I would love to know what you guys think from an operations perspective.
I mean, just what I said before, it's the doubling up. It might seem tedious, but an assistant is the details person, right? We're the details on the implementer, and we've got that personality already that, if they haven't responded to my email, I'm going to freaking find where they're at, and I'm going to, I'm going to text them, I'm going to Slack them, I'm going to do everything, but I'm not going to be annoying. I'm going to be very sweet. That email I sent you 3 hours ago, I really need an answer. So that's how we handle it, at least just the double thing, email, text, or email, Slack, something like that.
Karen, what's your take on this? I understand that there are people who just operate a certain way, and yet when you have a group,
I'm dying to hear Karen's answer on this.
Me too. I'm dying for it.
Most CRMs have the ability to send an email and an SMS, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So you offer the buffet as as a meeting provider, and then it's also really important for other people to own their own streams. They can opt out of one or the other. Yes. Right? We used to do a thing for one of my clients where in every email about your next module is available, here's the URL, here's the login, here's your password, da 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 da. It's really not the best idea to be sending passwords through email weekly.
Right.
So rethinking that is like, oh, wait, we could allow our participants to be adults and manage their own passwords. So there comes a level at which, as a provider, I want to make it available to people, and I need to treat them as adults able to make their own choices. Let me tell them how. Here's how to turn this off. But they own that.
100%.
Yeah. I was going to say, you can silence your notifications, So, Gwen, what do you think? I mean, you were dying to hear.
Well, no, Karen's a genius. Well, I mean, Bonnie's a genius too. This is a great group. But I take a lot of the same behavior kind of advice from Karen that Karen does, which is, in some cases, if there's really a reason that I need to do it this way because it's the only way that makes sense, I just make it really clear, this is how this is coming. And, you know, I realize that you really want it to come via text. It's not going to come via text because I can't fundamentally make that happen for a group of 50 people, you know, in the way that you want, right? Back to, if you're an adult and if you're running a business, it's if you're that particular, like it has to be this way, then what I get to is like, well, then you're just not my people. I'd love to provide for you, but you're not my customer, because I can't provide good service when I'm having to be this particular with, you know, 16 different people, right?
Sure.
But there are also things, exactly like Karen said, that there are times it's like, oh yeah, they need this. We can totally do that. I mean, one of our fundamental beliefs is both context matters and white glove service. So we try to customize as much as possible, but we also know you can't completely customize everything for every single person all the time in every single solitary way. Just,
Right,
you know.
right. You have to just knock it down. There's so many options too, and there's so many additional apps you can use, Voxer, WhatsApp. You could use the Slack channel. I'm curious to know if any of you have any favorites or things that you recommend the most or see the most effective. And I'd love to hear any questions from our audience on or comments about those third-party apps that work to streamline communications better.
I want to start by saying everything that Karen said is exactly the truth. You really need to understand how their brain works to figure out, because the app itself is never the solution.
Ooh, I like that. I like that.
Right? It's not the solution. You know, people are like, well, I haven't done this yet because I haven't figured out what the right app is. It's like, the app is not the solution. You need to understand how your brain works, how you're going to function. Then we can figure out the app that matches that. But it's not it's not about the app. So, you know, this is why when I first met Karen, I just like immediately fell in love with her, because most technology people get very tied to this technology is the best technology. And what that usually is saying is, it was earth-shattering for me when I found that technology because it worked the way my brain worked. But that's not true for everybody, which, like I said, it's why I loved Karen's approach when we first met, whatever it was, 6 months ago.
Right. And hopefully we hire neurodiverse people because it balances out. But I'm curious to hear from the rest of you.
I want to be surrounded by people who are not like me. It would be a terrible world if everybody was just like me. Right? Being of a certain age, I love Mighty Text. Mighty Text is a web app that picks up my SMS messages from my phone number and puts them on the big screen with the big keyboard. I just like this. This is not for me.
Where's my pen?
Oh my gosh. Mighty Text. I'm writing that down.
I have to.
But I do the same with WhatsApp. I do the same with Slack. 90% of the time, I will bring my computer along so that I can have things on the easy screen. It fits in a purse, you know, it's not that big a computer. Rather than trying to type on that little keyboard. That's just what makes it easier for me. And knowing that, I can make that accommodation. That's one of those key words, accommodations.
Accommodation.
Right? Yeah. Other tools like Beeper that say that they're going to pull in all the streams, they do that. They pull them all in and show them to you, but you can't respond on the stream.
Well, yeah. I love that, because that is a problem that I personally have, Karen, is I like to turn my phone off. I can't work on this baby phone and also work on my computer. All my texts get neglected, but a big thing with our team, you know, just to be, you know, customer centric, is to adapt and adjust to whatever works for a certain person. But darn if I'm not going to try this Mighty and suggest it to my team and get some feedback from them to see if they've been using it. They're all independently working with their clients and you know, with their account managers to find that their love language for their clients. But boy, that one sounds good to me.
All right.
I think it's important to say I have circles of like spheres of influence. There's also spheres of access, right? I do have texting on my phone, and that number goes out to my children, one of whom dances with depression. Like, that person needs me to have that level of access all the time.
Yeah.
Great.
Right.
My clients might have Slack, or I check my email fairly frequently. That one works for me, or whatever else I'm working with them. But I'm pretty clear with them. Like, I'll get back to you within an hour. I don't do day-to-day work, so I'm never urgent kind of stuff. And I'm really clear that for the general public, you can DM me on the socials. I might get to it tomorrow. If you leave me a voicemail, it's going to be next week, maybe. Like, don't make my phone ring. But that's just me. So I know that it's important for me to designate who I'm available to. And I'm sure that's true for other CEOs.
Right. It's true.
Absolutely.
And, you know, I've had coaches who say, only message me via Voxer, or only send me a note via WhatsApp. And I'm like, am I supposed to really remember that? It's like, well, I appreciate the distinction there. Siobhan shared that Mighty Text rocks, and you can also get a similar experience through messages.google.com. So it's just a Google product, huh? I've already I've bookmarked it because I am on a Google Workspace, so that could make sense. Okay, so we're just in our final 15. If we don't have any questions from Ashley or Siobhan, I just wanted to ask you guys, okay, the first time you meet with a client, well, Gwen, you kind of already went through a little bit of your intake questions, but when you're checking into what is serving their efficiency better, what are the top 3 questions that you ask them to think about when you're in those first intake meetings? Karen?
Yeah, go ahead, Karen.
Okay. One is, what was your favorite thing in high school? And when I'm asking this, I'm looking through multiple intelligences, right? Are they going to give me, I love to write? Are they going to give me, like, math was my thing? I loved lunch hour and making friends, right? So,
Yeah.
okay, that's a people person, right? So I'm gathering what kind of secondary skills I can start to draw on when they hit those bumps in the road. When we get to those things that it's like, oh, that's boring, I don't wanna. Great, you loved music in high school, let's put some music on in the background. Second thing that I'm gonna ask them is, what is most broken in the world? And what I'm reaching for here is their very deep reason for choosing the business they're in. There's something about what they're doing that ties to making the world a better place. And as I can relate every single thing that we do together back to why doing this thing makes them more able to serve the world, they're more likely to do it. And the third thing is, how do you know when you've had a good day? Because what they're going to tell me is, I helped a lot of people. I got a lot of things done. I learned new things, right? So that gives me the most bottom line of how they're orienting to the world. In integral psychology, we call it your quadrants. And looking at that, how do you know if it's been a good day? Really lets me sync up the systems that are going to have them having that feeling the most often.
Nice. I love that.
Mhm.
Because we start a business because it's what we care about in the world, but you're really just connecting it holistically. Gwen, I know you were chomping at the bit there. What were you thinking?
Well, because I only have one question that I really
Okay.
focus on, and that is, what does success really look like for you? Not what society has told you success is supposed to look like, not what your culture has told you it's supposed to look like, not what your family has told you what it's supposed to look like. And for this time and space in your life, because both things matter. What success looks like when you've got a 10-year-old could be very different than what success looks like when you've got kids out of the house, right? And everything in between. And so part of it is, what does success look like for you right now in this space and time? Because that gives me so much insight about what's really motivating you, Because so often, if you ask, what is success? It's like, oh, a 7-figure business. And it's like, sure, that's an easy answer. That's probably a lie. It's probably not true. Back to what Karen was saying, that most people are being driven by something much stronger than money. Most of the people I work with, the money matters, but it doesn't matter. Not really, right? And so what is getting them to, and it sounds like an easy question, what is successful? It's a really hard question. We often have to spend quite a bit of time before we really get clear on what that is, because we've been so conditioned by all of the outside pieces. But once I know what success really looks like, then I can help you design a business that matches that success. Which may be very different than the business you have right now. So I only have one question. That's my question.
That's a good one, Bonnie.
Perfect segue again. in hopes that I've already qualified clients to have gone through some work with people like Gwen and then gone into the Karens, and they can tell me what they know about these people they refer to us. Says we are the task takers, the doers, and the implementers. Mine are more cut and dry. Have you delegated in the past? And what was your experience? Because I get a lot of negative experience, and so I have to put the kibosh on that and get ahead of that. Are you ready mentally and financially to commit time and money in an investment into this person for at least 90 days? Because that's where we found in our experience that it takes about 90 days to see if you've found your person that you're going to delegate tasks to as far as a VA is concerned. And then, mostly it's, what revenue level are you at? And I'm not going to expect them to tell me dollars, but how long have you been in business, kind of thing. So we kind of get the back end and we know where their mind is. And do you know how to block time and what is your communication love language? Because we have to, when we match, we need to find a VA that's open to that doesn't mind going back and forth between WhatsApp and texting. Not like me, because I work with a consultant right now that has me doing that. I'm like messaging her on WhatsApp and she never answers it. So I have to text her and tell her to look at WhatsApp. Not loving that. But yeah, ours is super cut and dry, but those are kind of some of our qualifiers to just, to match them with the right person. And then we just put our emotional intelligence into play after a conversation about everything and anything to get to know them a little better if I don't already know them. But those simple questions kind of help us get started.
That's great. I'm already thinking about how I can solve this problem with my mastermind. So this is great. Tell us a little bit about your new podcast, Bonnie.
Well, thank you so much for that. So as she mentioned, it's called Delegate to Elevate, Get Shit Done. It's very real and very open. And I do use a couple of these here and there because I want to attract my people, right? Because my whole life of nearly 40, aging myself, 40 years has been being delegated to. So I know a little bit about being delegated to. So now I just kind of want to impart what has helped me in my career to be a better person to delegate to. So it's all about elevating, what you do by your delegation muscle, right? And so I've released already about 10 solo episodes, and I'm starting to line up guests, Karen, Gwen, all of you from the podcast, because it's aimed at professional service providers, because that's what I know. And it's not just virtual assistants, it's everything. And I broaden people to think outside the box, that delegation is not just giving a task to somebody. It's also, this is my view anyway. Sometimes I delegate my brain to somebody else, like a coach. And that I'm going to give that coach my brain and I'm going to delegate it and they're going to help me grow. They're going to elevate me by what they teach me. And so it's all about elevating what you know. It's talking about our wins. It's talking about our failures in delegation, which we're going to share it all. And we're even going to talk to some people about using AI as a delegation person, you know, and all that, since it affects us. So yeah, it's all about what you can get off your plate so that you can do your thing and live in your overused terms, zone of genius. But that's really what it's about. So I'm excited.
Good. Well, make sure you put a little link in the comments to this LinkedIn event so that people know how to find your podcast.
Awesome.
Gwen, anything coming up in your world that you want everyone to know about?
Well, we've got a podcast too that we're I think we're about 6 months in. I'm having to do because I lose count because we're recording ahead of time and it's like, what have we actually launched? I think we've got just about 6 months of podcast launched at this point. And I say we because I do it with my marketing person, Tanya Kubo, and we started it. It's called The Business You Really Want. And we started it because Tanya said to me, she says, these conversations that we're having need to be had out loud. The things you say, no one else is saying. We need to hear your voice saying these very, very contrary things. I think Karen referred to best practices, and what, one of my favorite things is best practices usually at this point are just common practices. They're not actually best. They're usually just common. And so we've been loving it. And so it's a conversation. It's just a conversation back and forth between Tanya and I. Tanya and I have been working together now for several years, but we've been friends for like 15. So it's a really fun, relaxed conversation. And same thing, kind of like what Bonnie is saying, we're talking all about just the business pieces and the things that no one's talking about and the things that people make it sound like all you have to do is, and it's like, no, that's actually really hard. And why it's hard and the things that you need to think about. So I've been very excited. I've waited a long time to do a podcast until I felt like I had something to add other than noise into the conversation. So,
podcast for me was one of my nevers. I'm never going to be a CEO. I'm never going to write a book. I'm never going to do a podcast. So never say never.
I was going to say, how's that working out for you there, Bonnie?
I've done all of them.
Yep, never say never. Okay, Gwen, make sure you add that link to our chat as well. Karen, anything new we need to know about?
I have an app that is currently in beta and will be soft launching next month. It is a purpositivity app to go along with my book. And the app is not like daily meditation. It's a co-working daily planning session. So this app is each day 5 to 7 minutes, and then there's weekly and monthly reviews as well of get in your body, presence your purpose, and now it's open eyes, hands on the keyboard. Let's work through your to-do list for today and how you are going to show up on purpose in those activities. Nice. So I'm pretty stoked about this app coming out. And at this point, I'd say if you're interested in this kind of thing, the best way to get on the announcement list would be by looking at doing yourself a purpose audit. So I will give you the link for the purpose audit download to see how you're using your purpose in your business.
Nice. That's great. Good. We'll throw that in the chat so we get that link. Any other questions, Siobhan, Ashley, anybody else have questions that we want to throw out there before we close? Or we're all equipped to be productive?
I have one. What is your kryptonite when it comes to working with CEOs?
Can any of us go?
Gwen,
Go ahead,
for it.
Gwen.
So my kryptonite is and kryptonite probably isn't the right word, but I am very careful about who I work with. And I've designed my business model so that people can opt out really easy when they realize it's not a good fit, because everyone says they want accountability and few people want real accountability, because real accountability is holding up a mirror, and many of us aren't prepared to see what's in the mirror. and so they'll say, oh yeah, I want that, and we start doing it, and it's like, that's really, really scary, and it's like, that's fine, and then you're not my people, and that's okay. Not that they're bad people at all, that's never the case, but you've got to be ready for me. And so my kryptonite was when I would say yes, because it's like, I know I can help them, but now I make it really easy to say, no, it's okay, maybe later when you're ready.
Mhm.
I'd have to say my kryptonite is the highest level of expectations for a contractor versus an employee, and not realizing that RVAs do support multiple clients and they expect on the spot responses. Of course, it's not in the contract as such. So that's definitely my kryptonite when they're like, well, she didn't answer me. Well, it's been 10 minutes. So probably maybe she had to go to the bathroom.
Right.
But they literally will complain about something like that. That's definitely my kryptonite.
Mine is very similar to Gwen's. It's people where we work together and we architect the system that fits for them and we get them moved in, right? And then they just go back to what was. Whether they have some coach who says, or they read a book like, oh, I just found David Allen's Getting Things Done, which is decades old, right? But they just found it and they're going to go do best practices. And it hurts my heart because they're going to create a situation filled with have tos and shoulds and yuckies when it could be much more a sense of blossoming.
Yeah.
Wow. That's really well said. I think it's a gift to the world when we find the joy in the work that we bring to the world, because everyone benefits and we're happier. Our dog benefits, our partners, our kids. So it's really a good idea to do what we do best and delegate the rest, right, Bonnie? And
Right.
find the right system that supports you. That's why in my CRM consulting, I went from having my favorite top 3 CRMs to, no, talk to me about your business. Talk to me about what you need to do. We're not going to create shoulds for you. We just want to help to mobilize what you do best.
Yeah.
That's the whole idea. It sounds like you all are doing that, and I hope that we get some traction for you to get exposed to more people today. And I hope that this video serves as a really good tool for you to be able to use to explain what you do. And thank you for giving your time today for this brief conversation to just increase our productivity so that we can really get shit done, right, Bonnie? And yeah, effectiveness every day, Gwen. Yeah, with joy, Karen.
With joy, I love that. Yes. I feel like
So,
Nice job.
I am just with it, with all of you, and I appreciate it. Everyone's going to get a copy of this video, and I hope you'll join us in future conversations to add value, because you all have amazing things to say. Thank you so much for being on
Thank
today.
you, Donna. Thank you so much for having
Thank
me.
you for having us. It was a great conversation.
Thank you.
Take care.
She left. We're done.